President Obama has cut his holiday short to return to Washington. He wants to reignite stalled negotiations to prevent the so-called fiscal cliff. Well, what's this all about? International relations expert Brooks Spector is with me now on Newsnight. Welcome. So President Obama hosts top congressional leaders. It's being called a last-ditch meeting. What is likely to emerge? I understand 3 o'clock Washington time.
I was going to say just a few hours from now, our time. What's going to happen is that they're going to spend a lot of time circling around each other, trying to figure out who can take the lion's share of the blame, who can take the lion's share of the bad news, and who can grab the little bit of good news that comes through this, because there are really three things at issue, right? There's the tax cut that goes back into effect. In other words, the taxes go back up. There is the point at which taxes would still go up as opposed to those which would go down, remain lower for people. And there are the cuts in federal spending. And the real consequences of it, of course, are the fact that this whole fiscal cliff thing was designed by Congress last year to force them into reaching some sort of agreement, which of course they failed to do. Come January, government spending will have to decline, most especially defense spending. Taxes will, if nothing happens, go up. And the economists predict that over time, maybe not the first day or so, but over time, could even put the country back into a recession from which it has already escaped.
Brooks, there's a flip side to that. The Economist magazine today saying that tax rates rise, as you say, spending gradually decreases, but perhaps a good thing for an economy that is mired in a trillion-dollar debt or a multi-trillion-dollar debt. The U.S. has to bring its deficit under control at some point. Would this not be a starting point?
Well, the problem is it's like lopping off your head to deal with a headache. I mean, it's a little bit too draconian, which is the reason why they put this in place in the first place. The more logical approach, and the one that the President and Congress as a whole failed to achieve last year, was a larger bargain which gradually decreases federal spending, most especially in what are called discretionary, but are actually things like Social Security and Medicare, changing the formulas, changing the dates of when people can apply and receive the benefits, gradually beginning to trim some other spending, gradually shifting the tax burden to the richest in the country more than is true now, closing some tax loopholes, and also agreeing to a gradual increase in the debt ceiling should it be needed, so that all these things happen without the constant infighting.
It depends on how you define the word gradual, though.
Yes, it does, of course. That's the big problem right now. They have approximately, well, they have less than a week really to solve this. My best guess is right now that the thing that's most important is the Republicans know they're losing the public relations battle on this. The polls say more than half the people in the country think Obama's doing the right thing or has the right view. Under 30% think that the Republican congressmen have the right view. And the Republicans also know that come the new Congress in January, there'll be somewhat fewer members who are Republican than there are now. They are in effect trying to draw in poker terms to an inside straight.
All right, let's try and reduce this to our neck of the woods. Let's assume that the country does go into this fiscal cliff. There is talk of a recession in the United States. We noted today that the JSE was in the red. Some attributed directly to the fallout, or at least the concern of this
forward-thinking fallout.
Precisely. Should this happen, how would it affect a developing economy like South Africa? Are we resilient enough to withstand the battering that this might give us?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure I can give you a detailed answer for South Africa's economy, but I can say that on the whole, it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to drop shares on stock markets for sure. It will probably make the South African rand less strong against the dollar. That's perverse, but in tough times, people retreat to the U.S. dollar and sovereign bonds because that's the last holdout of difficulty. So that puts, even though the budget is in trouble, even though there's the potential of a recession, tends to drive the dollar up perversely. In an economy like this one that is so dependent on the export of raw materials or only slightly processed materials, mining minerals and things like that, if it depresses demand, in other words, if it's kicked into a recession gradually, that of course has yet a further knock-on effect to South Africa, but it also has to all the other countries that export minerals or slightly processed agricultural commodities. So not good times for everybody. I think lots of people are hoping that they can come up with a solution, but if you had to bet smart money on it, they would, in the phrase, kick the can a little further down the street before they have to come up with a solution.
Brooke Spector, always good talking to international relations watcher Brooke Spector with us here on Newsnight.